And okay, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, everybody. I'm going to get the party started here with the San Diego Farm Bureau. I wanted to thank them for putting on Wednesday webinars and inform farmers and processors and people about agriculture. And this happens to be a hemp webinar, and it's new trends in hemp, what's happening in the hemp industry, new products, new commodities. And also we're going to talk about the new California proposed hemp law, AB45. So with that being said, I'll just give you a quick background on myself. My name is Chris Boucher. I am the CEO of Farmtiva. We are a hemp seed breeder for hemp CBD fiber, also hemp CBD, and also fiber varieties. We have projects in probably 30 states. And I've been growing hemp for, this will be my 30th year involved in the hemp. My first hemp grow was in China in 1993. We supported a couple fields there where it was the only place back in the 90s you could buy hemp was either in China or Europe. And I also was involved in growing in Poland, Romania, Hungary. It was just really, hemp was illegal in the United States back then to grow. However, I was able to grow hemp in 1994 in California at the USDA Research Center. You can see it on YouTube. CNN came out and filmed it, and it was quite an interesting time during the 90s. And I've been involved in lobbying hemp for 25 something years, and here we are now. We've got it's finally legal. So can you imagine, in 1994 I was growing hemp at the USDA Research Center in Brawley, California, and I told everybody, oh, it'll be 2 or 3 years before hemp's legal. And man, it was 25 years later. So I was wrong quite a bit. And I got into the hemp CBD in 2011, and I was instrumental in co-writing and drafting a legal opinion. And I'm not a lawyer, however, my expertise in hemp law is quite extensive. And we drafted a legal opinion called Hemp CBD is legal in all 50 states. And we challenged the state and the federal government that cannabidiol was not a cannabinoid. So we wrote this legal opinion, and we started shipping hemp CBD across state lines with a 5-page report saying how CBD hemp was legal. It definitely caused a lot of issues. I was kicked out of the hemp industry. Everyone said it was fraud, that there's no such thing as hemp and CBD, and it just went on and on. Finally, by 2014, people started to realize, wait a sec, this is for real, and it is legal. And so it always has been and always will. But that being said, we'll talk about the new proposed laws that could just start regulating CBD as a much higher regulatory product like marijuana, which we don't. We've been always behind hemp as a agricultural commodity, not a illicit drug or an illegal product. So it's an agricultural commodity. Hemp CBD, hemp fiber, hemp food should always be treated like corn, soybean, tomatoes, not marijuana. And so that's where we draw the line. That's the line in the sand, and that's where we're at. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out, I'm going to share my screen and do a quick slideshow, and I'm going to start out with the hemp trends. So I'm going to pull it up here, and I can just walk you through as we go. If anyone has any questions, we can go through. So as I introduce myself here, I had done that, and want to get right into the hemp farming trends. So these are the trends that I think that are exciting. We're looking forward to expanding into these, we'll call them commodities.
Hey, Chris,
Yes.
you want to put your PowerPoint in the full screen?
Full screen. Thank you.
Thank
yes. So the hemp farming trends, that we see that are coming out. We have the hemp terpenes extraction, and I'll explain that as it's, can you guys see the screen?
It's still not in full view. If you press on your PowerPoint at the very bottom, the button to the left of the minus
Yep.
sign, press that. Okay, so now it should be in presenter. So now
Ooh,
we can
thank
see it on
you.
our full screen.
Thank you, everyone. So here we go, the trends. So terpene extractions, we have Delta 8, we have baby leaf greens, microgreens, craft flowers, and craft hemp teas. These are all products that farmers can grow, process, bring to market. And we'll go into terpenes and extractions. So there are thousands of terpenes in nature, and there's almost 400 of them have been found in hemp and cannabis, but only a few of these terpenes appear in substantial amounts to extract. And what we're seeing, it's like a flavor. So the flavor house industries, the beverage, sports drinks, you say you have an orange drink or a grape drink, you're going to have a hemp drink. I mean, it's either going to happen next year, the year after, or in a couple of years. So it's inevitable that almost every company, whether it's Pepsi Cola or a local craft soda or energy drink, could have hemp flavor in it. You have myrcene, which is one of the bigger flavors you'll see, essential oil, basically, or beta caffeine. And so they all have these different terpenes and extraction, steam distillation. And it's the easy way to farmers to get into this industry. And you're seeing, like in Florida, a lot of farmers, the trends, some of them are going into that area of terpenes and extractions. And also, I can answer questions as we go through, when we end, and any of these issues you have here. So then we go like this to the next slide. Boom, down here. Delta 8. So Delta 8 is a little controversial. People are like, what is that? What can it do? Delta 8 can be, it's federally legal right now and in most states. And, it's part of the hemp plant. And the Farm Bill, if you look at the federal law, and the federal law, I think, supersedes state law. So some people will say, oh, it's illegal. It isn't. But, if you get in a court of law and you can argue federal law that this is specifically says that all derivatives, isomers, cannabinoids from hemp are illegal, because there's a big debate whether it's legal or not, just like with CBD back in the day. Now, whether or not the DEA or law enforcement authorities will try to come after the Delta 8, but we'll see what happens. But CBD can be converted into Delta 8. You're seeing some farmers starting to do that. They'll grow the crop. Then you have the middlemen, the brokers that are converting, CBD into, CBD does convert to THC a lot easier than you might think. So that being said, we'll go on to baby leaf greens. So baby leaf greens, I should have some pictures too, but we can put them up later. It's pretty much similar to leafy greens. You're growing a small plant. You can grow it in 30 to 40 days, sometimes quicker depending on if you're using hydroponic, if you're using soil, and eventually you'll go into a restaurant or you go in the supermarket and they've got arugula, they've got lettuce, they're going to have hemp leaf. It's really nutritious. It's got a lot of nutrients, and it's a unique, I'd say, niche product within the leafy green industry, but it's a food, and it definitely has a huge potential when you think about a consumable food that people eat every single day. Some people will love it, some people might not, just like with arugula. And these plants can be fertigated using sub irrigation. You can use certain fertilizers, and basically it's a sensitive way to grow it. And there's different processes, but good drainage and good irrigation really would help the plant. And we can talk about yields and growth and costs and all that later. Then we have hemp microgreens. Um, and hemp microgreens are just like sprouts. You know, you get alfalfa sprouts, onion sprouts, broccoli sprouts. You'll have hemp sprouts. And again, these are just foods. I mean, we've been talking about this for 20 something years, but now that hemp is out of the bag and it becomes this day, you know, I think household name, everybody knows what it is. You know, we can slowly unveil all the products that hemp can produce, especially food. Food's important. And so it's microgreens definitely are some of the healthiest sprouted vegetable greens you can possibly eat. So you're going to see that really explode into the health industry for sure. And then we get into craft flowers. Craft flowers, we call that the smokable hemp. Some people use the craft flowers for pre-rolls. Some people use it for making teas. Like if you want a tea, green tea, and you can have you know, echinacea tea. You can have a hemp tea. It's just, again, they'll be on every retail grocery store in the future, and it's just a matter of when and how. And but with the craft flowers, we're seeing it as one of the fastest growing trends here in California for small farmers. When I mean small farmers, I mean like family farmers. Uh, you have minority farmers, you have woman-owned farms, veteran-owned farms, and it's a trend that seems to be really catching on quite drastically. So one of the issues that the state of California, they're trying to make it illegal to have smokable flower, and it would make it a crime. And we've got a lot of people that are trying to quit cigarettes and they will smoke the hemp. You don't get high from hemp flower, you get CBD. And some people like to use the craft flower to smoke because the CBD works within 30 seconds or a minute. They feel it right away. It goes right into the blood. Then you've got people with PTSD, people with anxiety, and when they eat the hemp, it might take, you know, an hour or so for it to take effect. So the craft flower works pretty quickly when you consume it in that manner. Okay, now I'm going to switch over, and again, we can answer any questions people have um, with the foods and the hemp trends. But I wanted to dig into the proposed new hemp laws here in California. And what concerns us drastically is that it's becoming a licensed authority, regulated industry. And you have the California Cannabis Industry Association, you have the Cannabis Licensing Authority. They all want in on hemp. They want to regulate it. And, you know, I don't blame them. They want the revenue, they want to sell it in dispensaries. But at the end of the day, you got to realize what's going to happen to the local farmer who wants to grow hemp, and now he has to compete with all this regulatory infrastructure, competing with multi-million-dollar marijuana companies. And the marijuana companies aren't going to buy from the hemp farmers, they're going to grow it themselves. And so it's kind of directing the Bureau of Cannabis License Authority to develop a process to share license, registration, cultivation, enforcement information. And it really makes no sense because currently enforcement and compliance is done through the local sheriff's department. Any sheriff can look up your license. You know, we get calls all the time. Oh, Chris is growing marijuana over in his greenhouses, and the sheriffs just look at the address and say, "Well, that has a hemp license." And the hemp license is registered to me, my address, my FBI fingerprint background. They know everything. They know the cultivars. So why do they want to have this shared license program? Why? Because so they can regulate it. And we believe this part of the law could hurt many California farmers. And you know, and the problem with this is you have this collusion of the marijuana industry and also for the hemp industry, the HIA, the Hemp Roundtable, Vote Hemp. I mean, they're endorsing and encouraging these massive regulations. Why are they doing it? Well, we can tell you why. It does offer some benefits. what's happened is the state of California is trying to act like the FDA, okay? And they want to put hemp food, hemp tinctures, hemp gummies on the retail shelves of Whole Foods and Sprouts. And right now, the California state has determined that hemp is not safe in foods, and so that's why they recommend and they believe it's illegal. We don't. We could go to court right now and prove by federal law of the Farm Bureau, as I mentioned before, that hemp is legal under the Farm Bill of 2018, all parts of it. Whether they believe it's not safe or not, that's up to the FDA, not the state of California. So what they're trying to do is appease the marijuana people and also your large CBD manufacturers and wholesalers. They're not farmers. And I'm speaking to you in this entire time as a farmer. And we're looking at, well, who is pushing this bill? This bill is being pushed and provided by non-farmers. They're industry representatives of, like I said, tincture people that are doing wholesale and distribution, and they want to get on the store shelves, and I don't blame them. So, but this is not the way to do it, is to push this bill down our throats, regulate the industry, and basically make everybody conform to all these loopholes you must jump through. Sure, it needs to be certified. The product should be grown in accordance, but treat it like a commodity, like olive oil, tomatoes, tomato sauce. I mean, this is a commodity. It's not a drug. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it like it's a drug and it's really dangerous or it's radioactive. And what's going to happen, the onus is going to be on us California farmers. And how is the state of California going to regulate out-of-state growers, people from Oregon, Washington, Florida, Texas? There's no way they can do this. It's kind of just a farce. However, as we move on, it also authorizes age restrictions. So it's going to say, well, if you're not 18 and over, you can't buy this gummy bear, or you can't buy this capsule. What happens if you're sick or you're in need of CBD, just like you need vitamin D or you need vitamin E, you need a dietary supplement? If you be 18 years and older, I mean, come on. I mean, who is writing these laws? So whether this is going to pass, we don't know. But it authorizes the Department of Health to adopt regulations establishing age requirements on certain products. Now, who is going to regulate this and how are they determine which products are going to be for somebody 18 or 21 and over? I mean, I'm actually can't believe I'm even talking about this, but this is reality. And as we get into the prohibited products, this is part of the proposed new law. And we see that the Department of Health, they're going to adopt regulations not only for age, but also they're going to determine which products are a threat to public health based on scientific research. I mean, who are they to determine what is unhealthy? I mean, that's something that as voters and as farmers, we know this is a safe product, but they could turn around and say, well, we think CBG is unhealthy. We could think CBN or whatever other molecule, or they could say, hey, maybe their leafy greens are no good, or maybe, so there's no description there on the determination of what is a threat to public health of hemp. And it also prohibits medical devices. And this is something we thought, well, wait a sec, face masks. Okay, there's a huge influx of scientific research that shows hemp non-woven face mask material makes some of the best HEPA filters and face masks comparative to the N95. The jury's out still on it, but it would make any hemp face mask pretty much a medical device. And if you sold it on a commercial scale, it could be illegal. Of course, if you look at number C, they're going to outlaw processed smokable products to vape, anything you smoke. However, what happens if you're in a store and you're selling the flower? Pretty much they won't allow you to sell the flower in a jar in the store because they can say, well, that's going to be used for smoking, but somebody could maybe use it for tea. And then we also go down to other products. Well, nicotine, tobacco, we know scientifically that is poison, so that's is a no-brainer. But alcohol, read number E, alcohol. Okay, let's just say you're a manufacturer and you make ethanol-based tinctures. That's alcohol. So can they regulate that? So the description there is very vague. And some of the best tinctures available are made with alcohol. What if somebody wants to do a hemp flavored beer? You're going to outlaw that? I mean, this is ridiculous. So, and again, I'll keep moving on because we have more slides to go. And so it also, if you look at number 6, it provides the Department of Health, it can prohibit the inclusion of hemp in other products through regulation. That is a blanket open way to just, really destroy the industry through regulation. So, and especially exempts cannabis and cannabis products from the prohibited product section in the bill. Again, you can tell who wrote this. Um, um, and as we go through, we'll jump over to the regulation and development process timeline. And so it authorizes the Department of Health to adopt emergency regulation. What is an emergency regulation? What that means basically at any given time and point, they can make regulations. Emergency. What is an emergency? So it doesn't even describe what an emergency is. I've never seen in my 30 years in the industry, I've never seen a bill of this nature. I mean, it goes against everything we all worked for and fought for 30 years here in the United States to make hemp legal, one of the greatest agricultural commodities in the modern century. And to put these regulations before us is just prohibitive. And again, I'll continue reading down. I'll keep my opinions to myself here. And so as we goes down, it does provide public comment, which that's a state law. It has to be received in 30 days, but who knows when the comment is released? You're a farmer, I mean, are you going to have like an immediate alert that there's a public, there's an emergency regulation that has just been drafted, and you have 30 days to debate it, and they can adopt it without consideration, or they do consider it, but most of the time they don't. So moving on, I'm going to go to the next slide here. And it also, which is really interesting, again, you talk about regulating, they're going to authorize the Department of Health is the serving size per container. So if you have like a tincture that has 100 milligrams, they might only allow 20 milligrams or 5 milligrams. So this is a direct input from the cannabis industry. They regulate how many milligrams of CBD is in each product. CBD is not a drug. Okay, you do that with drugs. You don't do it with an agricultural commodity. And to have this is just, again, bizarre, but it just really shows you how the marijuana industry and the hemp industry have colluded to put this bill together in order to get product on the shelf. They don't want to wait for the FDA. So the testing requirements, and again, there are some issues in this or requirements in the bill that do make sense, and they comply with federal law, and that's all we need to do. We need to comply with federal law, not California law, because that would really disrupt the industry. So as you read through, it establishes the party with cannabis testing requirements. So it doesn't even mention what these requirements are. This would cost every farmer, I think, every 20 pounds of flower, you have to do a full panel test. And that's about a $400 or $500 test, depending where you go to. So if you grow 1,000 pounds, you grow 5,000 pounds, start doing the math. It's called batch testing, and they have to batch test it. Here in this bill, it doesn't really specifically mention quantities and specifics about testing requirements in that manner. And again, we need to test our product to make sure that it allows the THC to 0.3 to comply with federal law. And 0.3, I must say, is probably one of the dumbest laws in the history of agriculture. 0.3 is 1/10 of 1% of a molecule that's going to make your product illegal. And again, we're going to get rid of 0.3 here in the future. You'll see there's already a bill in the federal government to bring it to 1%, because if you're 0.4, your field bankrupt, you're done, you have to destroy it. So again, we already have to deal with that part of the regulatory issue. And again, products should be tested. The testing should be put on the onus of the distributor or the manufacturer, just like if you're selling organic carrots or organic celery or any other product. If you're pouring pesticides in it, you're going to get in trouble. Okay, but the farmer's not the guy who has to go test it. This is an agricultural commodity. It's not a drug. I keep going back to that. So we get into the compliance and enforcement. And this is real interesting. So it gives the Department of Health the ability to seize and embargo and recall all your products, set forth the Sherman Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Okay, I can see if your product's contaminated, but if you read specifically what it does, it provides that the DPH and also the BCC will be involved. They can look at your financial data, your bank accounts, your sales data, your personnel data. I mean, this is a little bit too intrusive. I mean, they don't do this in the cotton industry, carrots, food, okay? Basically, what they're saying is they believe everyone is going to be a criminal, and in order to, I guess, stop a criminal aspect of the industry, this is what they need to do. Okay, and this is what they don't need to do. This bill needs to be stopped. So it also requires out-of-state manufacturers. So if you're a hemp producer in Texas or Arizona or Florida, you're going to have Department of Health employees from California fly out to your factory in Miami or, I don't know, Atlanta, Georgia, and travel and inspect your facility. How are they going to regulate that? I mean, who put this in there? So again, and I'm just picking out parts of this that are just really make no sense. And I want to make everyone aware of that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, to make people aware of what's happening. This bill could be passed sooner than later. So what else does it do? The Cannabis Licensing Authority, in coordination with the Cannabis Industry Association and the HIA and others, it directs the Cannabis License Authority to do the following. And when it says develop a process to share license, registration, cultivation, and enforcement information to facilitate compliance and enforcement against unlicensed manufacturers, retailers of industrial hemp products, there's already a law that does that, okay? If you're an illegal grower, they've got laws. The sheriffs know it, the police know it, the state knows it. But what it does is it authorizes a compliance to share this information with the Bureau of Cannabis regulations. So that right there in itself really causes a lot of issues from our point of view. And as I go through this, I wanted to get back, and I know I've gone through this. What I'd like to do is basically take any questions from anyone that they have. I know I've gone through quite a bit here, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free on the chat, and I gladly answer. Or we can unmute people. Anyone? I can. Okay. Let me see, as you can see me here. Yeah, I want to thank everybody. If there's any other questions that anyone has, I said my chat right here. Here we go. Any questions? Any questions? Here we go. And you can see the slide show. The Farm Bureau will present it to everybody. You can download it and go through it. Okay, Jack had Norton asked me what is going on with hemp terpenes in Florida. You're seeing a lot of growers that are actually contract growing for beverage companies, flavor houses. So like I said, you'll have a hemp flavored drink, like you have an orange flavored drink, grape drink. You go into 7-Eleven, AM, PM, and hey, there's a hemp flavored drink. Some people will like it. Some people might not, just like any other flavor. So it definitely has a palate and it's interesting. And then I also have a question here with what to do, start up in their state, have 1 acre and have a high tunnel. How can they get a grant to become a producer? And depending on the state, I think that's from Angelo Kerfoot, and I appreciate that. I can get back with you on that. And we have one from Josh Schneider, and he has asked, what do you think the future is for small farmers who are interested in getting involved in hemp production? What makes sense to do it on a smaller scale? And I think that's a great question, because I think we do want to do it on a smaller scale because we've seen a lot of investment in large scale farms, and the distribution channels weren't established and the sales channels weren't established, and people are still sitting on product. And if anyone has any product, there's definitely people that are looking to buy it at pennies on the dollar. However, I can tell everybody here that in confidence that the FDA will be ruling sooner than later, hopefully, on the edible hemp foods being safe for human consumption. And that basically will open the Hoover Dam, and you'll end up seeing edible hemp foods, CBD, in Vitamin Shop, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, you name it, everyone's going to sell it. You already see the topicals everywhere, and we're just waiting for the foods. Anything else? Other than that, yeah. Yeah, if anyone has any questions on the hemp bill, and if you want to fight the hemp bill, we need to call our local politicians. We have Senator Atkins here in San Diego, if you're from San Diego, but your local senator for the state of California should hear from you and ask them to be in opposition to AB45. And one thing I did mention with AB45 is that it's a state constitutional law. Pretty much it's been a voter initiative. So the law was passed under UMA Prop 64. So in order to change all these laws, they need a 2/3 majority vote in the state Senate and Assembly to change this bill. So that means they need a lot of people behind it, a super majority, because they want to upset the voter initiative, which this bill was put forth for the people, by the people. And now they want to eliminate that. And someone mentioned, you mentioned radioactive. Yeah, that meaning that they're so afraid of this that they don't want to touch it, and they want to kind of seclude it and put it in a box somewhere. They don't want it to have open, free market economy on it. And we kind of use that figuratively, saying that. So how much of a burden, someone asked me here, how much of a burden are the complex testing processes for small farmers? So this is a great question. So we're seeing farmers, they're becoming like vertically integrated. A successful hemp farmer, not only does he grow his hemp, he's processing it, because you got to think outside the box that, okay, this is not a normal commodity. You're growing a molecule. I always tell people, when you're growing hemp, you're not growing a fiber, you're not growing a vegetable, you're not growing a nut or a berry. You're growing a molecule, and it's invisible, so it's a really untraditional type commodity. So to take it to the next level would be to maybe put an extraction facility on your farm, and the next thing you know, you're underneath the nose of the state authorities, and you're paying all kinds of processing fees, tolling fees, and at the end of the day, they're just taxing the local farmer and the processor, which we don't think should happen. And someone else mentioned, I think you mentioned doing hemp fabric production. Are you processing the fiber in the US or something you're still doing overseas? Curious about restrictions to getting machinery and how difficult it is to process. So hemp fiber is becoming huge and it can replace a lot of synthetic fibers. So you're seeing this crossover in the fiber industry. For textiles, though, growing hemp is a little more difficult because it's really a highly labor intensive process. When I grew hemp in China in the 90s, I was over in Hunan and Shandong, and it was just people breaking the fiber off of the stalks and processing it. And then when I went over to Hungary and Romania, it was pretty much the same thing. And there's about 8 or 9 pieces of equipment just to make it into a yarn. And here in the United States, we basically destroyed our textile industry. I mean, we gave it to China, Vietnam, we gave it to Southeast Asia, which they make great clothes, great fiber. They did it better than us and a lot cheaper. So, everyone look at your label on your clothing. It's probably not made here. So we don't have the equipment here. Either we have to reinvent it all or go buy it back from where we sold it to. So, plus our labor here is so expensive, it would cost a lot more, but you're seeing fiber show up in other parts of the industrial spectrum in the car industry, automobiles. You're seeing it in the pharma, medical devices, HEPA filters, plumbing. I mean, it's like anything you can make from a petroleum-based product can be made from a carbohydrate. So we're really going back to the turn of the century when we went from a carbohydrate-based economy to a petroleum-based economy. So it's starting to revert back. And anything else I can talk about? What we can do as a community, and again, that's really calling our local politicians here in California and stopping this AB45 bill before it really, puts a dark cloud over all of our current hemp farmers. And what else? Is tree paper processing world lobby against the world hemp? Well, paper processing, again, there you go. You're competing with paper. Paper costs wood chips are like $50 a ton, and sometimes they give them for free. So you would never compete with the paper price unless it's a novelty item. Whether I believe they use hemp in our currency, bonds and certificates use hemp in their paper, but to compete for a daily paper, it's too good of a paper to use as a printing paper until they figure out how to do it for $50 a ton compared to trees. What else? We have something for Josh Schneider also. There's a lot of investment going on right now in the food and fiber sector with some big projects in hemp plastics and hemp fabric around California. Do you know if there will be much processing and manufacturing in the food and fiber sector here in San Diego? That's a great question because San Diego is just a premium place to grow hemp. But with the fabric and the textiles, you need massive land, and the cost of land and water equate into your ROI and how much it costs you to grow that fiber and process it. But I believe the processing facilities, people are looking at doing the processing here with expended hemp stalks from the CBD industry. It can be ground up. There's a hemp paper company in San Diego that makes a lot of hemp paper down there, but more novelty. What else? Yeah, if there's any other questions. Okay, what states do you predict are the next for the hemp train? We're in 49 states. Hemp, I think, is legal in almost every state now. So this is a national commodity, and it should be treated like any other commodity in America. And you have every state in the United States that has a legal hemp program. So we really need to keep our economy free here and open without regulation. And again, if there's any other questions, I know I'm typing away. Yeah, I know Jack Norton, to everyone, he updated section 494 requires COAs include official California regulatory sample. Any issues at county level with getting cultivars approved to grow with R&D versus regulatory? Have greenhouse going. County was asking for regulatory COAs before approving cultivars for trial. Yeah, they're trying to eliminate some of the R&D for some reason. Yeah, there's definitely issues with certain cultivars that if you're doing research and development under the research part of the program, and that's the part of the program they want to destroy in AB45, is there's no more research permits under research facilities that was implemented under Prop 64, which again, that could cause a lot of issues because private research is just as important as public. And you see much more information coming out of that sector. And that's about it. Well, I definitely appreciate everyone coming and participating. And I can be, if anyone ever wants to get a hold of me, I think my email and my phone number are on the slideshow. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And I do appreciate everybody coming. We have one more question here. What are the issues with selling flower at 0.6 THC on a final RD test but passed? Yes, so this is a huge question. We call it the testing game. The testing game is you test early, you pass. You test late, you fail. So as I mentioned before, this 0.3% THC is the dumbest law ever invented in the history of agriculture. Testing a product based upon 1/10 of 1% of a molecule's registered potency. Okay. What happens if it's 0.32, 0.33? It's over 0.3. That's 1/100th of a percent. So eventually this is all going to change. So it's Mother Nature. These are molecules. When they heat, when they dry, when they're stored, molecules change and they actually increase. So you could cut your crop down and it's at 0.3, and then after it dries and cured, it's at 0.6. It's still legal because you passed the test before you cut it down. And again, this all has to be changed. It is being changed at the federal level, and sooner than later we'll get rid of this law. But as long as you have your state test from your pre-harvest, you're golden. And yes, this webinar is recorded, and hopefully you can download it. And I see Josh Snyder asked me here, do you think the lawsuits that are starting to be filed against the counties for scientifically unsupported destruction orders will help convince the counties of the error of their ways? Yes, so the lawsuits are coming. I mean, it's unfortunate that private industry will sue the state, will sue the county, will sue the regulators for basically disregarding the science, disregarding the state law, the federal law. Okay, so we're already seeing lawsuits pop up in many counties because the counties, they're just administrative referees of this state bureaucracy. However, the implementation of this is all based on federal law. So I hate to even use the word guns. It's like, hey, I mean, you have federal laws that you're allowed to have a gun. You're not allowed to hold it. You're allowed to keep it in your house. Same with hemp. It's a federal law. It's not a state law. So the state law needs to be in compliance with the federal law. And I think this litigation is going to really explode as we get into 2021, 2022, because the more investment you get into this industry, the more money you have. And once people realize they're over-regulating and they're not following the letter of the federal law that it should be. Hope I answered that. And we still have 10 minutes. If anyone else has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. And it's been exciting just to see everybody here and learn what's going on and what people's questions are, because this is a big deal. This is the biggest agricultural commodity in the history, I think the current history of agriculture, hemp, whether it's food, fiber, clothing, fuel. I mean, it's here and it's here to stay. Do we want it regulated by the Bureau of Marijuana, or do we want it regulated by farmers and industry? You know, you don't have the carrot industry regulating the cotton industry, okay? Just like you don't have the marijuana industry regulating the hemp industry. So we need common sense in this. And we can't have these giant corporations that are wholesalers and retailers dictating to the farmer how it's going to be run. I mean, even our own industry, Hemp Industries Association, Vote Hemp, Hemp Roundtable, and I hope you guys are listening, because, come on, you're really doing a disservice to California farmers with this bill. Yeah, you want your products on the shelf. You need, revenue for your company, shareholder value, but not at the expense of the California farmer. No. And does Normal get involved with hemp situations? Normal normally doesn't, and I think they're progressive in promoting the cannabis laws and protections and litigation and lawsuits. So they're definitely more of a legal law entity, where again, we have our own hemp industries are basically colluded with the marijuana industry. So those are things that we can get into later, but hopefully we'll see some change. But we want to kill the bill. We don't think it's negotiable. We think that they need to renegotiate this with farmers, California farmers' input from the ag aspect, not from the corporate entity aspect. And that's what this bill is. So somebody asked me, what do you think about selling flower direct to consumers through the internet? Oh, for sure. That's it's federally legal. The federal law says nothing about smokable hemp being illegal. So, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know what the federal law says and what it protections has. Now, if you sold it in California and they passed this bill, you would be a criminal. So, how does that go? And so that would be a huge litigation angle there again. And there will be lawsuits, because it's just it's basically a destruction of the industry if these laws get passed. And somebody asked me, what's the number one product to sell for beginners? The number one product to really sell is, either a hemp flower, hemp tea, hemp tincture. People white label. You can start your own company with your name on the logo, your logo on the bottle. I mean, they'll make 500 units or 1,000 units. Just be like anyone who was using a dietary supplement and they were selling herbs and vitamins and stuff on their website. I mean, it's just it's wide ranging on what can be done. And what else? I hope I've answered most of the questions to everybody. And I wanted to thank everybody for coming on. I know we're getting down to the wire. And any other questions that we might have? Well, yeah, thank you for everybody for coming and listening. And I hope I explained myself fully. And I get a little excited when it comes to this new hemp law, because I've been around for so long. It's real clear for me to see this is everything that we did not want in the hemp industry. And we wanted it to be a free market economy without regulatory restrictions. We never, ever wanted the marijuana industry, the cannabis industry, to regulate the hemp industry. And that's what's going to happen. And we need to stop it. We need to stop it now. And again, I thank everyone for attending, and you know how to get a hold of me. And I appreciate everybody being involved. And, you're the change. Each person can do something about it. And most of all, I want to say we lost a great hempster Dion Markoff, a San Diego resident. I don't know if anyone knows him, but he was in the hemp housing, hemp concrete construction in Vista, California. He was putting on Saturday workshops to learn how to make hemp concrete and build a hemp home. He passed away this week. He was only about 55, and we love the guy. And I just wanted to, mention that because it's heavy on my heart, and I can hear him as I'm speaking, and being really a powerful individual that got us to where we are now. And again, I thank everyone, and you all have a great day. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris, for sharing all of your knowledge with us. And if anybody came late and missed it, we will have this webinar recorded and on our website, so you can go back and view, or if you just want to see it again.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a
Bye-bye, everyone.
have a
Take
great
care.
afternoon.